Hi friends, my name's Tammy and this is my booktube channel, Believe in Yourself. And today I have for you my weekly reads and wrap up. And I was able to finish several books this week, and so I'll be able to add some squares to my bingo card, and I'm pretty excited about that. So let's go ahead and get started. The first book that I did finish was Last Christmas in Paris by Hazel, Gaynor, and Heather Webb. And I did mention this last week. I had to take a bit of a break from it, and I did finish it. This is a book that's told in letters. It's an epistolary novel, and it is a story that takes place during World War One and in Europe. And this follows this main girl, her brother, her brother's best friend, and also her best friend. And it does take place during the entire war, from right before the war began till afterwards. And it's just the story of what the four of them are going through. It's the two boys serving in the war as soldiers or officers, and the two women. She writes for a newspaper and does a women's column and talks about the reality of the war, not what the government wants all the people to know, but actually what's really going on. And that causes a few problems through the book. And then her friend is also a nurse during the war. And this is a very good story. It's very depressing, I thought, but I'm keeping this book because now that I know what is involved with it and I know how it ends, I think I would like to read this book another time, but I would like to read it down the road during, maybe, I'm thinking summer months, June, July, August, somewhere in there where I can get outside and enjoy the fresh air and have some distractions and not just be cooped up in the house just reading this book. But I think I'll enjoy it more the second time than I did the first time. And I did buddy read this with my friend Nadine, and I think she liked it better than I did, but we both did agree we do not believe this is a Christmas book. This is a historical fiction book with a little bit, they do talk about Christmas every time Christmas rolls around. So I did finish this book, and let me show you where I'm going to put that. I'm going to put that in on the square that says New Facts, because I did learn some stuff about World War One that I had not known. So I did learn a lot from reading the book. It was really, really sad. So that's it right there, and that's where my bingo board is right now. I also read by R.C. Sherriff, The Fortnight in September, and I really liked this book. I don't think this book would be for everyone, though, because it is very slow, day to day. It's just 2 weeks, and it follows this family of a mom and a dad and a son who is just out of high school and he's working full time, and a daughter who, is in her late teens. And this follows them day to day. They decide they're going to go for their yearly vacation to the sea, and it's a very slow moving novel. This is not a plot driven novel at all. This is just a character driven novel, and you do get to know each of the four main characters. The dad is grappling a little bit with becoming older and maybe a few problems at work that he's worried about. The mother is just, she's got her own things she's dealing with. The older son is working in a job that he's not happy at, and he's trying to work that all out. And the oldest, or the only daughter, she is also trying to it's kind of a coming of age um, moment in here for her. Oh, I forgot. There's 5 of them in the family because there's also a young son that I'm guessing he's maybe 8 or 10 or so. I'm not sure how old exactly he is, and he's just there having a great time. So it is very slow moving though. So if you don't like slow moving books, I do not think this will be the book for you. If you do like to just dive deep into a family and follow along through their thoughts and what they're doing and seeing how they're interacting with each other, I think you might like this book. It does take place over 2 weeks at the beach, and I loved it. I'm going to put that book on. I have a square that says blue right there, and this book is definitely blue. So I'm going to put that in that square. That's my bingo board with that book. Then I have quite a few shorter books. I have one called The True Gift by Patricia MacLachlan, I think is how you pronounce her last name. She's the one that wrote Sarah Plain and Tall, and that's the book right there. Now this is a short Christmas story. It's about a brother and a sister who go to spend their Christmas break with their grandparents every Christmas, and their mom and dad come out for Christmas Eve, and then they go back home to their home when Christmas break is over with. And when they go to visit their grandma and grandpa, there's always a cow, a white cow. They call it white cow at their grandma and grandpa's, but they also have a donkey and they keep each other company. Well, when they get there, they find out the donkey is gone because the people who were renting space, and keeping their donkey there at the grandpa and grandma's farm have got a bigger place now, and so they take the donkey. Well, the white cow is all alone. And the boy, Liam, is very sure that this cow is very sad and needs a friend, and he's very worried about the whole situation. And he and his sister come up with a plan of what they're going to try and do to make this cow happy for Christmas. And through this story, they realize buying presents for everybody else and trying to get their presents for themselves and whatever is not what really matters. It's really what matters to them is this cow, that this cow will be happy. And this is just a really sweet story. It does have a lot of really nice illustrations. This is a picture of them with their grandparents' dogs. And here's White Cow. And this is short. It's only 80 pages. And I loved this book. I think this will be one that I'll read every Christmas. I was able to read it in well under an hour because it goes really quickly and it does have a lot of pictures. So where I'm going to put that one is... Okay, so I had to figure this out. The author is the winner of the Newbery Medal, and a medal is another name for an award. She's also won the Golden Kite Award, the Newbery Medal, the National Humanities Medal, and she's won several medals and awards. So I'm considering that to be prize with the author. So I'm going to put this book up there on that square. Oops, let me get it on there straight or it's going to drive me crazy. Okay, so that's where that book goes. I have 3 more books that I want to talk about. Okay, I read this one. This is one that I recently got in my Harlequin book haul that I did. And this one's called One More River to Cross by Essie Summers. And this was published in March of 1980. And this is by Essie Summers. And I loved this book. You guys, this was so good. I don't know if you can get a hold of this book or find it anywhere, but I loved it. Let me kind of tell you what it's a little bit about. So there are two girls, Becky and Rebecca. They are cousins. Their moms are identical twins, and their dads are brothers. And the oldest one is Rebecca, and Becky is 2 weeks younger. And Becky is a very flighty, selfish, self centered girl who she just kind of causes problems and doesn't really care who it hurts. And we've got Rebecca, who's 2 weeks older, and she's always getting her cousin Becky out of scrapes. Well, Becky's been engaged several times and she breaks off every engagement. She's engaged again, but she doesn't want to get married to this guy either. She gets a hold of her cousin Rebecca and they meet up at a hotel that's nearby. This takes place at a quite remote farm that takes a while to get there and a while to get out of there to to bigger towns and whatever. But she meets Becky at a hotel, and Becky says, "I'm not going back. Can you please go and make some excuses for me, or just pretend you're me and see how they treat you, and maybe you can tell my mom and dad that they just didn't treat me good so that I'm not in trouble, or do something." And she has left her job. She's a newspaper writer, and she's left her job for a year because she's going to go up to some solitary place and write a book that she's always wanted to write. Well, she goes to the great big kind of ranch, and when she steps out of the car, everybody thinks that she's Becky. Becky's fiance has left to go look for Becky, so he's not there, and he's the one that knows her the most. This is Becky's fiance's cousin, and there's a couple other people there, but they cannot tell the difference between Rebecca and Becky. They think it's the same person, and she decides, well, she finds a reason why she needs to stay there to help out. She needs to help out with some kids because their mom has gone in for an emergency surgery, and he assumes she's Becky, and she thinks, spur of the moment, I'm going to try and act like I'm Becky, try and smooth things over, then talk Becky into coming back here. We'll trade places. No one will ever know. Well, time goes on and she's there, and Becky sort of disappears and she can't get a hold of Becky, and now she doesn't know what to do. And this was such a fun book. I enjoyed this book a lot. This was a sweet romance. There was one, maybe two kisses or something in the book, and that was all. And I really enjoyed this book. And I hope I have more by Essie Summers, because I would definitely read more books from her. So where this one's called One More River to Cross, and there's a lot of twists and turns that happen in the book. And I'm going to put that one right here. I have the word one, and this book is One More River to Cross. So I'm going to put this book on that square, and that's where I'm at. I haven't looked yet, so I don't know if I'm going to get a bingo or not, but we'll see together. I have two more books that I read. This is another book that I read with Nadine. This is by Debbie Macomber, and this is called Alaskan Holiday. I thought this was pretty good. This was okay. This is not one I would read again, but I did enjoy reading it one time. And this follows a young lady. She is working as a cook over the summer at this kind of a lodge up in Alaska, and she's going to work there for the summer, and then she's got this dream job of hers that's in Seattle, and she's planning on going back to Seattle at the end of the summer, or at the end of the fall, right before it gets to be winter, I should say. And she sort of becomes interested in this guy that lives in Alaska, and he likes her too, and he doesn't want her to go back to Seattle. He wants her to stay there, but she wants to go back to Seattle. Well, through a few mishaps and something that happens, she misses the last plane out of this area, and there's supposed to not be another plane until spring. And she's trying to figure out how to get back to Seattle. He wants her to stay there, but he wants her to be happy and get back to Seattle if that's where she wants to go. And this is just kind of the story of what happens. And I did like it. The first part felt a little, I don't know, felt like they were in junior high to me. I don't know, they felt really kind of young and immature. But after a couple of chapters, we got a few extra characters in here, and the story was able to progress, and the story got better. And I did end up liking this book. I just didn't love it, and I probably would not read it again. So this book, I have decided, because this is a nighttime scene, I have a spot on here for night, which is right there. And that's where I'm going to put this book. And that's where I'm at. I don't think I have a bingo because I'm missing this one for diagonal. And I don't have any up and down or cross yet, but I still have one more book to talk about. And this was another very short book. This is called The Christmas List by Ed J. Pinegar. And I love that cover. I found this, I think this was at a thrift store, and I was sucked in by the cover and thought it would be really good, a good Christmas read. This one was, out of everything, I would have to say this was my least favorite book. It kind of felt a little preachy. So, you know, I didn't really need that, but it was okay. And also the other thing, this is a sequel, and I didn't realize it. I've not read the first book, so I felt a little lost because these characters all knew each other, and there was a backstory, which it told a little bit about the backstory, but I felt like I had missed out on part of it. But it's basically about this boy. He's maybe 14 or 15. He's reading his grandfather's journal. His grandfather's passed away, and his grandfather gives a list of 10 things to do before Christmas to get more in the Christmas spirit and to help others. And he gathers these people that were in the first book and gathers them all together for a dinner one night and gives everybody the challenge. And every day he sends out an email or puts it on a blog, I guess is what he does, and puts the challenge on there. And every day there's a thought from the grandpa and a thought from the boy and a challenge to do good in some way. And I mean, it was a good book, but it wasn't my favorite book. And I won't be keeping this either. I don't even know that I super recommend this book, but if you like Christmas books of all kinds, you might like it. But it was my least favorite book of the week. So this book was actually published in American Fork, Utah, right there. And that is my neighboring state. And I have a square here that says borders my state. So that's where I'm going to put that book. The Christmas list will go on that square. That was right there. So that's where I am. I'm pretty close. I'm missing one there for a bingo, one there for a bingo, one here for a diagonal bingo, and one there going across for a bingo. So I've got a couple of possibilities for bingos in this next week, and for some reason I don't have any books over here. That's really crazy. But anyway, that's where I am with my bingo card. I am in the middle of one book Sorry, let me dig around in my drawer over here and find my book that I'm reading. I am reading The Secret of Phantom Lake, and this is this is a 3 investigators book, and this is by William Arden, and this is about 3 boys that have their own little private detective agency, and they like to solve mysteries, and they have a mystery of a pirate's chest that has shown up, and there was a ring in there. There's also some journals that have been spread around, and they have a hold of one of them. There is a guy trying to get this pirate's chest, and they're trying to figure out the mystery of it all. I am going to finish this. And usually I DNF if I don't like a book. I'll usually DNF it right away. But I do want to know how this ends because I'm curious, and it isn't very long, so it won't take me that long. I don't think this book has held up very well. Let me see when it was first published. This was first published in 1973. And there's one boy. I mean, these all look just like regular boys, right? But one of the boys are named, there's Jupiter Jones, Pete Crenshaw, and Bob somebody. And one of the boys, every single adjective, every time they bring him up, you know how if a line will say, blah, blah, blah said Ben, blah, blah, blah said Susan, or whatever. Every time it involves him, they call it's blah, blah, blah said the stout boy, the stocky boy. And they have called him stout and stocky, which I'm laughing, but I'm not really laughing. But they've called him that probably 30 times, and I'm maybe a third of the way through the book. And I don't know, just the choice of words throughout this book. I don't think it's held up well. I guess maybe that was more acceptable back then. I don't remember it being that acceptable to call people stout and stocky every time you're going to talk about them. But it doesn't hold up very well. Go back in there, okay? But I'm going to finish this book. This is the only book that I've got started. I am going to start a few other books this week, so hopefully I'll have more to talk about with you next week. But I hope you've had a great reading week, and we'll talk next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.